Good morning, Rick. How are you?
Good morning, Keith. I'm fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing really, really well. You and I have been on this health journey, not just physically, but emotional health and the personal development for some time now. We've known each other for almost over 15 years. It's been a long time, and it's just been absolutely beautiful and a gift to my life. And one of the things about this journey that we've been on, we've along the way inspired each other to stay as healthy as we possibly can, to really live a vital and quality life. And so one of the things that we both have watched recently was a Netflix show about, how to live to be 100, or that may or may not be the title, but it's about blue zones.
Yeah.
And it's definitely worth watching. And so, Rick, I just wanted to do a little podcast about what were your impressions or takeaway from the Netflix show.
Well, the main one was how important it was to have an emotional support group and to be connected with people who you feel comfortable with and have experienced unconditional love with. And for many of us, that's our families. And for many of us, it's also a close friend or two. And the idea was that once you have this kind of support, this feeling of being okay with other people, that is a major contributor to longevity and also a major contributor to your day-to-day happiness. And it's true. I mean, when we go to a party, right? If it's a party of people that we like, it's really a joy. It's fantastic. Now, sometimes when you get invited to a party and it's a have to kind of do it, and it's somebody else's idea, your significant others, and you don't know anybody, it's a little awkward. But what I'm trying to get across is this notion of having other people, because we're connected, we're wired to be connected as human beings. That's part of what we are. We're a group social animal. And so having those connections that are deep and strong are enormous. And I think you have to have a few tests too. I think our friendship and the friendship with Tim and Brian and Pete and all the guys in our group, Matt, excuse me, DT, all these guys, I mean, we've been through a lot together. So the more you build on that, and the more closeness you feel, I think the healthier it is for us.
Rick, I totally agree. This friendship that we all share, uh, in the Western world is kind of unique for men, right? I think, it's not very common. I mean, men, they do things like poker night and, fantasy football league, and they go golfing and things like that together. But to have, so many guys come together and are really open and vulnerable, really open and vulnerable about some of the things that they are experiencing in life, some of the opportunities for growth. And I think that's a key part of it too, is that we don't just come together and talk about, or give agreement to each other about why, our ex-partner, it's their fault that the relationship is failing or that this is unfair. We come together in a way to help each other grow through the experience, so that we continue to have a loving and open heart to everyone that we interact with, and to also not be bitter, but to be on the road to being better. So I think that's something that's unique. One of the things in the show that really stuck with me too was, I think it was the group in Okinawa, Japan, and how this group of just all friends, how they put money aside in case somebody within the group has a hardship, and then they give the money, to that person to help them through that. I mean, that is a big deal, and we've all like paid for each other's expenses along the way when some of us have fallen on hard times, or covered the check. But I thought that was really special too, that part of it. Another thing that stuck out to me was something that you taught me a long time ago, and this concept of equanimity. And one of the guys talked about never getting too high or never getting too low, but just really, really being at a peaceful space. And I think if you work on yourself and you do the practice, that level that you maintain can the baseline or the floor can continue to rise just a little bit, and you never go under it. And so you're never too high, you're never too low. But if you continue to work on yourself and you deepen your consciousness, you can kind of like inch up the baseline of what your floor is. So I thought that was really, really powerful. The whole sense of community. And Tim and I talk about it all the time, man. Whenever we get a text from you about you are out running or you in the weight room or you out swimming or you, I'm like, dude, don't stop, Rick. You our future. Do not stop. We can't have you hang the trainers up. Like, yeah, baby. We need you out there like every single day. So this is why it's so special to us. You know, you are just a few years older than us. And so we need to see you still like living at the highest level. So we need you to continue to eat the way that you eat, continue to work on yourself every single day, letting go of your lower self so consciousness can flow through you. And it's really, really inspiring. So that, like you, the power of great unconditional friendship that helps you be your best was really struck out to me too.
Boy, Keith, I love that. Thank you for the compliments. I really appreciate that. It makes me feel great. The thing to keep in mind, I think, always is even if you don't feel like it, I'm a moody son of a gun. I have these ups and downs, and equanimity for me is something I work on every day because it's so important to keep that middle ground. The thing that I think is so important is not having to be a certain way. When you show up for somebody, when you show up in your group, your support group, it's dishonest to present anything other than your true self. So that's the part about the vulnerability. And I found with our group that by just not, if I don't, even if I'm not in the mood, I don't want to be around, I don't want to talk to people, or I feel embarrassed about some tragedy, so-called in my life. I just want to kind of go in the cave and lick my wounds. No, you need to share this with the people
Yes.
that you trust and that you feel most vulnerable with. Even if you don't even talk about the problem, you just show up and you're in their presence. Gradually, something will happen. It's almost magical, where that kind of dissipates the feeling that you were out of control or that you were hurt or that you were less than your best self goes away. And I think that's partly because a lot of what we do, certainly for me, a lot of what I do, I'm egotistical about it. I'm in my own head. I've got my head so far away from reality, and I'm engrossed in these narratives that are not productive. When I get with you guys, that all goes away. It
Yeah.
all goes away, and you don't have to say a word. I don't have to come in and say, I'm really down because fill in the blank. I don't have to do any of that. You just
No.
show up, and then you just kind of groove with the guys, and it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. The thing you have to do, though, you have to be willing to let go of the mask. We all have our masks. I have an enormous mask that looks like something out of the Amazon, that prevents me from being my true self a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So if you can let go of that and be your true, authentic self with people you love, that's the payoff that you get. And you don't want to focus on getting a payoff. You want to focus on being connected.
Absolutely. That vulnerability piece, Rick, is absolutely key. And I remember when I was afraid to be vulnerable, and quite frankly, I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I never saw it performed, exercised. And so I had to come to it on my own, about how to be vulnerable. And what took me there was suffering. I remember when I was going through a financial hardship and almost losing my first house, of suffering in silence, of not telling anybody about it, looking out the window to see if they were going to come and take the house and the car and all this other stuff. I mean, just suffering in silence over the whole thing. And then when I got to that point to where I had to tell someone, I looked for somebody who wasn't a friend to tell. I want somebody who doesn't. And I told myself, I don't care what other people think. Really? So you won't tell your friends what's going on? You do care. The ego cares. And then I finally told a friend, because the other person, who was a stranger, didn't give me a solution that was agreeable. And the friend said, "Oh, you should have told me this a long time ago. We can totally take care of this. We have less time now." I mean, no judgment, no anything. And the thing about sharing with you guys, Rick, we're not asking, other members of the group to solve it. There is a power in letting your authentic self, what's going on in your life, the reality of it, just sharing it. The burden is lifted from you. It doesn't mean you don't have to take action, but you don't have another problem to get through to take the action, which is the narrative of the mind, that psyche that is a prison, that's nothing but a prison for you to really do the work and take intelligent action if there's any action to take at all. And so again, this is the power of friendships that really struck with me. Another thing from the show that struck with me, Rick, was this idea of functional movement and physical activity, that
Mhm.
it's not in a gym or anything like that. And there was a while, ago that I had this thing about, I lift in the gym, but I don't lift outside the gym. This is this is Keith 1.0. People are like, hey Keith, can you help me move? I'm like, listen, these muscles are for show, they're not for go. So I'm like, I'm not lifting a thing. But then I wised up and I thought about this, about like my mom has been doing this her whole life. She came to a ToBeRe workout one time, hadn't been back. So she got on that spin bike and she thought, like, I don't know what made you think I could do this, but she is one of the healthiest people I know because she gardens every day. She's out in the yard gardening, which is something that you do all the time. And so that functional, the guy who's chopping wood, who's 100, years old, chopping wood, and stuff like this every single day. He works from 6 in the morning to 10, and then he takes a siesta. I like the nap part a lot. And so, so he does that. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, that's kind of what I've been doing. Like people always ask me, like, you're working at Mayo, you have these other things. Why are you still doing ToBeRe? And the reason I do ToBeRe is because it keeps me grounded. It helps me grow. I have to work on myself every single day. It provides all these amazing opportunities to serve others. But in relation to the point that I just made about this functional movement, when you come to ToBeRe, I'm often changing the weights for you. I'm getting up and down off the floor, doing abs with you. If you come and do a group workout, I'm bringing dumbbells to you. All of this is that functional movement of standing up, sitting down, twisting and turning, all the things that you need to do that people stop doing as they get older. They stop doing that functional stuff. It becomes easier, instead of walking, to drive somewhere. You're looking for the parking spot closest to the entrance of a business or a store, as opposed to, being parking down the block and having to walk. Nobody wants to do that. So, but those are the things you want to do. And so I just thought it was just amazing how Dan Buechner went through that whole study over the last, 30 years. And it's truly remarkable. So what are your thoughts, Rick?
Well, I can't top that. I think that's right. The idea of when you're getting older that you need to put yourself in a box. I think it's the same rule applies to getting older as it does when you have a sports injury. Here's the analogy. So if you have a tweak in the gym, or you're playing pickleball or your favorite sport, and you develop some sort of a soreness or some sort of a problem that really restricts your range of motion, or it's going to impede your performance, the rule is, if it's just a little painful and you can push through it and you still function, you do that. And if it's really painful and it's a red flag and you can't move, then you don't. Well, it's kind of like that with old age. I mean, you always have a choice with old age, whether you park 2 blocks away or whether you moan about no parking places, and then just struggle into
Right.
Walmart. So my point is that if you can push through that old age decrepitness that's natural, I think that is sort of the way things come about, and just reject that. Just reject it.
Yeah,
And that functional exercise, if you look for opportunities, you'll be rewarded for
absolutely.
functional exercise. The gardening you mentioned, they showed in the show how much squatting was involved. These guys, these ladies and men would
30
squat.
times, 30 times a day.
Amazing, isn't that? I mean,
No,
that's like a
no
squat rack.
furniture, no furniture in their homes to sit on, so they get up and down off the floor 30 times a day, and
Yeah.
100 years old.
And that's the thing. I think that it's partly this mental idea that you have to be a certain way, or I don't, I'm older now, I'm not interested in that. Why? Okay, it hurts. All right, it's always hurt. I mean, whether you're 25 and trying to do a personal best, or whether you're walking to Walmart and it's 3 blocks away, it's always a challenge. Just don't give up when you get older. That's all.
I love it, Rick. One of the things that I started doing after the show too was, now when I put my shoes on, I sit on the floor to put them on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I do it all the time now. And I change my shoes often at the studio, from cycling shoes to sneakers to putting it on. I mean, dress shoes are a little bit different because I got a suit on. But other than that, I am literally like doing that, and I'm taking every opportunity to balance on one leg and those things. And so I'll just wrap it up with the last part of it. The nutrition piece is a given about how important that is. But the last piece that I wanted to mention was, in all cases, those people were happy. They were joyful in every single case. It wasn't a case where they were old and bitter. They weren't. And lastly, the people that were younger than them, they didn't need the young people to do anything for them. The young people loved being around them because of the wisdom, and they loved being around the young people because it helped keep them young, and so young in spirit. And I just thought that was so beautiful, that you want to be around people, that are at different stages of their, life, or, it was just beautiful, beautiful. So, well, Rick, thank you for a great show. I love you.
I love you, Keith. Thanks for including me. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.